Welcome to NFL. Close your eyes and let the story begin. Swing upon the branches of the mango tree, beloved. Come home this monsoon. Sitting among a pile of mangoes, Meru hummed the tune softly. Beloved, come home this monsoon. Well, here I am. She looked up in surprise. There he stood before her, sleeves rolled up, holding a heavy knife. For a moment she stared, stunned. Then she noticed he was speaking seriously to Amma, who was busy measuring spices for pickles. Meru muttered a quick prayer under her breath and fled the spot. Only Zebi noticed the fleeting smile that curved across Maruf Hassan's reddish lips before vanishing again. The evening glowed pink. Bougainvillea blossoms trembled gently in the breeze along the wall beside the door. Aini washed jars and set them out to dry. They were preparing pickles for the whole year. Sometimes when even lentils and rice were scarce, those pickles were the only thing that saved a meal. Amma had already washed and dried the mangoes. Only cutting them remained. Maruf Hassan took the knife and began slicing the mangoes briskly. Tack, tack, tack. In the quiet courtyard, his carefree laughter would occasionally echo through the air, startling the girls. Meru remembered the previous year, when the three of them had taken turns cutting mangoes. By nightfall, their shoulders had ached terribly, but this strong young man finished the entire pile in no time. Amma filled the jars with spices. Maruf picked up a towel and disappeared for a bath. When he returned, he made an unexpected suggestion. Come on, let's all go out somewhere. Amma laughed softly. No, son, the girls don't go out like that. That's exactly why I say it. People need outings. It refreshes the mind. But Amma had many considerations in mind and gently refused. Disappointed, he left alone. The moment the door closed behind him, Aini buried her face in her knees and burst into tears. Oh dear, what happened, child? Amma asked. Zebi ran to embrace her. Meru tried to lift her face. What is it, Aini? Tell us. I wish we had a brother. Then we could go out with him whenever we wanted, without fear. Oh. Amma sighed deeply and sank. Who can interfere with the will of God? Meru's eyes filled with tears. She quietly left the room. Zebi continued comforting Aini for a long time. Meanwhile, Meru lit the fire in the stove, and like damp wood, she too smoldered silently. There was something about Maruf Hassan's presence in the house. Seeing him move about there brought a strange comfort. Standing in the shadow of his tall figure awakened a secret longing in her heart. When he was there, the house felt full, alive. Carefree ease seemed to breathe in every corner. And when he was gone, the house felt deserted, haunted almost. It had been barely a month and 18 days since his arrival, yet somehow he had made a place in everyone's hearts. And perhaps their hearts had been waiting for just such a strong, affectionate presence all along. She sat staring at the thin ribbon of smoke rising into the air, lost somewhere deep within her thoughts. Then Zebi suddenly shook her by the shoulders. A terrible storm is about to hit. Look, the whole sky is turning red. Hurry, get up and gather the things. Startled, she rushed out of the kitchen. Freshly washed clothes lay spread in a neat row along the walls. Her arms were already aching from a whole day of beating and washing them. One strong gust of wind would ruin all that effort. In a frenzy, she snatched up the clothes and hurriedly carried them inside. The wind had grown fierce. The earthy smell of dust thickened the air until every breath seemed tangled with the next. Within moments, a swirling storm of dust rose above their heads. Amma was shouting for someone to bring in the jars of pickles. Zebi was crying out for someone to put out the fire. Aini was nearly losing her mind, running after the tiny chicks of the hen. Then, with a loud crash, something fell outside the house. Perhaps an old tree, perhaps a crumbling wall. No one could tell, but Amma was badly shaken. Leave it all! Come inside! Zebi! Aini! Meru! I'm telling you, forget the things, you wretched girls. What if something strikes your head? Her voice rang out sharply. The storm was so dark that evening had turned into night. On her way in, Meru emptied a whole jug of water into the stove. Zebi dragged the jars of pickle indoors. Aini, however, had burrowed into Amma's lap. My chicks! My poor chicks! Zebi and Meru huddled close together. The closed door rattled violently. The fierce winds seemed determined to break through every barrier. Oh God, keep this house safe under your protection, Amma murmured anxiously in the darkness. The electricity had gone out, and her worried voice made the others uneasy too. Gradually, the wind began to weaken. Through the cracks in the door, the fragrance of damp earth drifted in. Only then did Meru rise and open it. Rain was pouring down in torrents. The water spouting from the roof gushed with a roaring force. Fill oil in the lantern. Arrange something for us to eat, Amma instructed. At her words, Zebi and Meru returned to the kitchen. But the entire jug of water had been poured into the stove. Now lighting the fire was nearly impossible. The kitchen filled with thick, bitter smoke. Zebi blew hard at the embers while snapping irritably at Meru. Aini, meanwhile, went out with Amma to gather the chicks, only to discover that the hen had already tucked all her babies beneath her wings in the coop. Just then, there came a loud knock on the door. A familiar knock. Aini ran to open it. Wrapped tightly in a bedsheet to shield himself from the rain, stood Maruf Hassan, soaked through and through. The moment Aini saw him, she burst into laughter. First the dust storm, then the piercing rain, and now a shower of mocking laughter. Maruf Hassan gave her a playful smack on the head. Run along and bring my clothes. He pushed her toward the veranda and went straight to bathe. When he returned, bitter smoke was swirling through both rooms and the kitchen. He asked Aini for the lamp, opened all the windows and doors, and settled down on the charpoy. When the food arrived, it too carried a smoky flavor. He enthusiastically lauded it, expressing his admiration for its remarkable flavor. In response, the clatter of dishes being set down rather sharply could be heard from the kitchen. He only smiled, chewing his morsel with contentment. Whatever the food was like, it held the comfort of a home. And what sort of life have we been living? He murmured to himself. Not once did a stove burn in our house. Not once did the fragrance of smoke settle in the air. Not once did the aroma of a cooked meal fill the rooms. He shook his head gently. There were just the two of us brothers, both bachelors. Burgers from the market, biryani from hotels. We forgot the taste of home-cooked food long ago. Aini came and took the tray away. He stretched out his legs and lay down where he was. A lamp burned on the table beside his pillow. The room lay half in shadow. From the doorway, the occasional cool breeze drifted in. Rain fell softly outside. The roof spout roared. The adjoining room was empty, and all the sounds came from the kitchen. Whispered conversations, muffled laughter, dishes clinking against each other, and now and then a spontaneous burst of feminine laughter. All the signs of a lively household, he thought. A woman's presence fills a home with warmth and happiness. He turned on his side. The charpoy creaked softly. Where had I ever seen such colors of affection, of tenderness, of prayers, of sulking and reconciliation, of innocent foolishness? And that Meru. Her slightly offended face appeared before his sleepy eyes, and a smile spread across his lips. Lost in that gentle thought, he did not know when sleep finally claimed him. Tap, tap, tap. Sometime in the night, the music of rain began playing nearby. He stirred slightly and turned over. Tap. Something cold fell on the tip of his nose, then on his forehead. His eyes flew open. Before the next drop could fall, he sprang upright. The roof was leaking in several places. He jumped off the charpoy, rolled up his bedding, and placed it in a corner. The lamp had gone out. The room lay in pitch darkness. Stumbling and feeling his way forward, he stepped into the veranda. Only then did he realize that the rain had intensified once more. Thunder rolled, lightning flashed, and rain poured relentlessly into the small courtyard. Rubbing his eyes, he moved cautiously toward the kitchen. I wonder where I could find a matchbox or a lighter. He had not wanted to disturb the household, but as he passed the other room, he stopped short. The door stood wide open. Both the lantern and the lamp were burning brightly. Inside, the household was anything but at rest. Everything in the room lay scattered. The dressing table stood in the middle. Chairs were overturned upon the bed. Someone was bundling the freshly washed clothes. Someone else was emptying the bookshelf. He stood there, troubled. They were clearly in great distress. A new house had been built behind theirs, and the walls had not aligned perfectly. Rainwater was seeping through the cracks between them, threatening the fragile foundations of their old home. The roof itself was riddled with leaks, misery on both sides. He hesitated. Should I go in or not? What help could I offer them at such a time? After a moment's thought, he quietly turned back. Sitting on the charpoy in the dark room, he remained awake. From the other room came the sound of water dripping into a vessel beneath the leaking roof, the irregular notes of a strange midnight melody. As long as the bustle continued next door, he tossed restlessly as well. At last, much later, he heard the sound of charpoys being spread in the veranda. The rain slowly softened and finally stopped. A gentle silence spread everywhere. Only then did sleep come to him properly. When he awoke in the morning, the sun had already risen high. The electricity had returned, and the ceiling fan spun steadily. Turning over lazily, he realized he was lying on a bare charpoy. After a few idle moments, he raised his head and peered through the mesh curtain. Morning activity was in full swing outside. In the middle of the courtyard stood Meru, a broom in one hand, the other resting on her hip. "Where should I begin and where should I end?" she grumbled. "Hey, are you listening, Nur Ulain? Bring all the lamps in the house. Let me scrub them too. Who knows, perhaps a small genie might come out. One snap of his fingers and all this dust will disappear." Nur Ulain said nothing, but Amma immediately scolded her. "I'm not lazy," Meru protested. "My back nearly breaks from filling buckets at the tap and washing the courtyard. And this delicate waist of mine—" There was a slight noise from Maruf Hassan's room. Instantly, she pressed her lips together and wrapped herself in an air of innocence. He emerged with a towel over his shoulder, dragging his slippers and yawning. He placed an empty bucket beneath the tap, turned on the water, and went back inside to fetch his clothes. From the corner of her eye, Meru watched him. A sudden, mischievous idea struck her. She carried her bucket of water to the veranda and began sweeping vigorously. Splash, splash. By the time Maruf Hassan returned, his bucket stood empty. He hung his clothes in the bathroom, filled the bucket again, then remembered he still had to shave. Taking his shaving kit, he went into the low-roofed guest room. He shaved leisurely. When he came out, the sound of sweeping had stopped. He filled the bucket once more. Just then, someone knocked at the door. He went quickly to the entrance. As he turned, he saw Meru happily claiming the third bucket as well. An involuntary smile touched his lips. Still smiling, he opened the door and paused in surprise.